Hello and welcome back to Remedy Reads, or welcome here for the first time. My name is Renee, and today I'm filming one of the videos I love the most to watch, and that is a book haul. So I don't typically buy books in mass like this, but many of them were stuck in transit from last year, and so they kind of all arrived around the same time. So I figured I would just put them all together and do a book haul video for y'all. So if you're interested in seeing what I got, please keep on watching. But in the meantime, if you would subscribe, hit that notification bell, and like this video if this is something you want to see in the future, and just to support me. I'm so excited to be here and filming videos for you, and so that would be an excellent boon for me. Also, if you see any videos if you see any books in this haul that you would like to read or you have read, please leave in the comments below any reviews, thoughts, or desires you have. I'd love to read them. I love bookish suggestions as well. So if you see something that requires a suggestion, please feel free to send it in the comments. So, okay, let's get to the bookish goodness. Okay, I have a huge stack over here, guys, so I'm going to do my best to be concise and just move through. Actually, I feel like this is a moderate stack, maybe of like 20 books compared to other book hauls I've seen, but let's just get started. The first book that I have here is actually I believe it's the third or fourth book in a series that I've actually been loving. It's not the most excellent series, but it's really fun escapism, and I'm all for it. That book is A Vow So Bold and Deadly by Brigid Kemmerer. So basically, all books in this series, how many ever there are retellings of fairy tales, is what I'm understanding. It took me a while to get that. I don't know why, but it did. So you either love these books or you don't like these books, but what I will tell you is they're written well, in my opinion, and they're very exciting, just twists and turns, and that's what I loved about it. So it's relatively short, I believe like 350 pages, and I'm just really excited to see how this series fleshes out, and I believe this is supposed to be the last. Yes, this is the third, so I believe this is supposed to be the last. I could be wrong. Fact check me, y'all. The next book is a January release that I talk about in my anticipated releases of the year video, and that is Remote Control by Nnedi Okorafor. The cover is just gorgeous. That's part of the reason that I fell in love with this book. And then I found that it was a novella, so it's actually pretty short. So I thought this would be a great way to see if I liked Okorafor's books. This is the first I've ever read from her, and this is about a young woman in, I've actually already read this book, and it will be in my review video, and you would think that I would know where she is, but I can't remember. But the young woman's name is Sankofa, and essentially somehow she becomes Death's daughter, and this reads like a folk tale, and it was an excellent foray into Okorafor's work, and now I want to read one of her full-length books, so highly suggest get more of the review in my January wrap-up. The next book is one that I think the whole bookish world is consumed by. I think it is Winterkeep by Kristen Cashore. This is the continuation of the Gracelings series that many people read in their childhoods or teenage years. So the series is quite old. I think many people were excited and surprised to see that there was coming another installment in the series. So I loved Graceling. I thought it is one of the books that actually got me into reading YA fantasy. I was never really interested in that genre. Reading Graceling changed my mind because the reading was more well done, more not new adult, but it was just tighter. It was more fast paced than other young adult fantasies I had read previously. And so I just really fell in love with Kishore's writing. I've read the entire series, which is, I believe, Graceling, Fire, and Bitter Blue. And this book features more of Bitter Blue's story and the story of the neighboring nation of Winterkeep and the mysteries that they are in. This is a must read if you loved Graceling, for sure. Okay, next book is, so one thing you'll find out about me pretty quickly is atmospheric fairy tale like stories get me every single time. I will risk it for the biscuit, not even knowing the author, if a book is described that way. So hopefully this is good, but I believe it will be because I have read another book by her and it was pretty good. Like, I remember liking it. So this is Into the Heartless Wood by Joanna Ruth Meyer. This book is the story of one of 3 siren daughters who interacts with a king's servant who is mapping the stars, and somehow that drags him into the woods. It's basically a story of life and death and a little bit of romance. I choose not to know too much about this because this is a standalone book and it's pretty short. So I feel like reading the inside cover is already too much, but I'm very excited to see how this goes. So maybe I'll probably be reading this in the winter. That's typically when I read books like this, but very excited about this book. Okay, so the next book is, you'll have to indulge me here. This is one of my I love words and I love reading about words kind of books. This is The Liar's Dictionary. I happened upon this in Barnes & Noble, and it is by Ellie Williams. So basically, this is so interesting to me. It's a nonfiction book about a person who has to unearth these what is it? Mount weasels. So essentially Mount weasels, I'm not sure if it's a real or fake word at this point, but Mount weasels are entries into an encyclopedia or a dictionary made by this author who uses them to make sure people aren't copying his work or reproducing his work illegally and then selling it under another name. And so this person in this book is tasked with finding all of those Mount weasels and removing them from the encyclopedia in which they were inserted. So I'm very excited about this. There's more to this story, but I just feel like just that was enough to sell me on this book. So it might not be for you, but I'm very excited. So you'll see this soon in a wrap up. The next book was suggested to me via a booktuber, and I say suggested to me. I was watching BookTube and several people talked about this, and this was one of the books that when it came out, I believe in 2020 or 2019, I was just uninterested. I was like, this can't be good. It's going to be like a weird, like Harry Potter-ish type of thing that I don't want to do. Sometimes I really love a good magic school, but a lot of times it's just like a retelling or recapturing of Harry Potter, and I'm just not a fan of that. So this book, The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I've never read anything by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, but it has gotten so many good reviews. It has a great review on a great number of reviews on Goodreads, and there is apparently another installment coming out in the series this year. And so I figured, let me just dive in. Honestly, part of it was on a great sale, and I was like, why not? So very excited to see if this is an author that's going to be on my YA fantasy list. The next book was recommended to me by my sister-in-law. This is by Jackie Hill Perry, which is one of my all-time most favorite people on Instagram. And just in general, she preaches around the country regularly. Well, pre-panoramic. So this is Gay Girl, Good God by Jackie Hill Perry. It is a memoir of her life before she got married to her husband. So basically, what I believe is basically, this is about her journey from being gay to now not being gay, and how God was involved in that and how that changed everything for her. So I'm very excited to read this. I love Own Voices books, and I feel like this memoir, a very short period memoir, is a very good foray into like understanding someone else's life, another dynamic. The next 2 books are by the same author. I was recommended this author because of her exploration of words and books in general, but also her first book is pretty famous. This is The Interpreter of Maladies by Jhumpa Lahiri. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I googled it like 6 times. I'm still unsure, so I'm sorry. And then In Other Words. So these are 2 very different books. The Interpreter of Maladies is, I believe, her Pulitzer Prize-winning book. This novel is a work of fiction and short stories. So just short stories based on the Indian culture and the way things are woven in and out of that culture. Don't know too much about it, but I've heard just really good things, and I thought, okay, let me finally get into her writing. And then the second book I got, probably should have waited to see, if I love her writing, but I feel like I really will. In Other Words is a really cool book. So this is her journey into learning Italian to basically rediscover the art of writing and how learning another language may change the kind of writer or the way she writes. I'm just incredibly interested in things like this and how languages change the way we use words and change the way linguistics are used to basically form culture. So very excited about this. And a really cool aspect of this book is if you're learning Italian, this may be like for you. This might be wasted on me, but the right side of the page has the English and the left side of the page has the Italian of the entire story. So throughout this entire book, you basically have those two languages running through parallel, and it just changes the game if you're learning Italian. I am not learning Italian. This might inspire me to do so, but I will probably just be reading the right side of the page. Very excited to do that. I really do hope, she's one of those authors that I really hope that I love her work. So it's like Rachel Cusk. I was hoping that I loved her work, and Kazuo Ishiguro. I was really hoping I loved his work just because psychological fiction, literary kind of discovery, stuff like that is very interesting to me. And so I will be disappointed if I don't fall in love with her writing. So there's a lot of pressure there for me. So yeah, we'll see when I get to it. The next book is the 4th book in a series of books that I absolutely love and think is incredibly underrated. So if you read The Priory of the Orange Tree in 2020, actually I think it came out in 2019. It's quite a thick book about dragons and the culture surrounding that world that has dragons. It's really interesting. It was not my favorite of her books though. The the Bone Season series. This is The Mask Falling. It's the 4th book that I've waited forever for it to come out. I think I found this series via Peruse Project, Reagan's video, maybe a year or 2 ago. This series is so underrated. It is so well written. If you like The Priory of the Orange Tree, you're gonna love The Bone Season. I have seen a lot of people prefer one or the other, but I'm telling you, like, the writing is spot on. There is a romance in here. There is tragedy, there's betrayal. It's everything. I love this, and I can't believe I haven't read it already filming this video, but I'm going to get to it as soon as possible. I am so excited about this book. That's what happens when you wait a long time, Now there's a lot of pressure. What if I don't like it? Anyway, let's not get into fears here. The next book is another book recommended to me by my sister-in-law, but also I've seen it all around booktube recently, and that is The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington. So this is adult fantasy. This is an adult fantasy that is based, it's kind of like, to my knowledge, like Brandon Sanderson's war military based, political based fantasies, but it moves so much quicker. So this particular book in the series is very, very fast paced. I will say I've heard that the second book that's already out, An Echo of Things to Come, is quite a bit more verbose and slower and more of a slog. So that was a little disappointing. I'm not going to allow that to diminish how much I want to read this book, because I have gotten through second and third books in series that haven't been as great as the first, and typically it's worth it. So this is my first foray into reading James Islington, and I'm very excited about it because I've only heard good things, so we'll see what happens. The next book, so actually BookTube inspired me to get this book. I'm not a huge sci-fi reader, and I don't think I appreciate sci-fi as much as I should, but I wanted to get into more classic authors. More recently, I've gotten into Toni Morrison, and oh my gosh, she is the GOAT. She is such an excellent writer. It kills me the way she uses words. So I was just like, okay, I gotta just invest here. So this book is Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. There are book reading challenges going on concerning Octavia E. Butler, and I will do my best to link those in the description box below, because I think it's an excellent way to have people who've read her work more cohesively, so just like they have read more of her books and will be able to kind of bring you through a perspective that's more complete. That's the word I'm looking for, complete. And so very excited about this. I am not a fan of sci-fi, but I used to not be a fan of a lot of genres until I just really invested in the best authors in the genre. And so Octavia E. Butler is well known and has won many prizes for her sci-fi work. So the Parable of the Sower is the first in a duet, I believe, and it is about Lauren Olamina, who's a young woman who basically galvanizes her ability to influence people into understanding the needs of their community, and essentially turns her into a figurehead of a new religion. So that's a very uninformed summary. So you might want to look it up, but I think that's what this is about. And I was told that I should start with Kindred instead of the Parable of the Sower, but this one came first, and I'm still waiting on Kindred, and actually hopefully I get it, so we'll see. Okay, so this next book I'm super excited about on a very, very personal note. I feel like this story is about me. So this is called Frying Plantain by Zalika Reed Benta. This is about a young woman who is it's set in Little Jamaica in Toronto, and basically it's about her experience trying to be a real Jamaican while also just being her full self, who I believe was born in Toronto. And so this is kind of the struggle of the Jamaican immigrant in a way, and the particular female perspective of trying to be like a true Jamaican woman, and all the pressures that are there when you are trying to integrate two cultures and just have a lot of family pressure to be a real Jamaican or a real whatever. So this is very near and dear to my heart, and I honestly, when I found this book, I just felt like, wow, this is a book about me. So we will see how this goes. This is my first read by this author, so I'm excited to pick this up. Then we have the first Brandon Sanderson book on this list, and that is Warbreaker. I haven't seen this as much on BookTube, but I'm a fan of Brandon Sanderson in a huge way. I love his books, and the fact that I can get through a highly political adult high fantasy in record time while reading his books is something that is very, very rare. I'm not a huge fan of high fantasy books with tons of politics that kind of takes over the story. And so his Mistborn Trilogy took me in, didn't let me go. It's a great place to start if you want to read his books or want to get into adult high fantasy. So when I saw that he had this book out. This is one of his first, and it's a standalone. I was like, let me add it because he typically writes series. He's very prolific and he's very verbose in some of his series. And so having a standalone to just reach for when I want just one book to read and not committing to a series was exciting for me. And this is about a young woman who is living in a world where there is a biochromatic power that allows you to collect, or it's a power based on like an essence, which is called breath, and it can only be collected 1 unit at a time. And there is a body of people who want it, and there's a body of people who produce it, and one oppresses the other, and she's caught in the middle of that. So I will let you know pretty soon probably how much I like this book. I am very excited about it, and I'm very confident that I'll like it. So hopefully this book doesn't make a liar out of me, y'all. The next book is actually, so currently I am reading a book by Toni Morrison, The Source of Self-Regard, and one thing she talks about in that book is the idea of women and race and feminism and how feminism is affected by race, and so it made me want to dive a little bit deeper into that topic. And so I kind of grabbed this on a whim. It's called Hood Feminism by Mikki Kendall. I believe it came out in 2020. And it's basically about the way feminism as an ideology and a movement, civil movement, have left Black women or women of color behind. So I'm really interested in what she has to say and the perspective she has to bring to the topic, because this is something I've personally seen and experienced in the feminist community, but a lot of times it's hard to put words to like a marginalization or a feeling of not being included when you're not exactly sure how they're disincluding you. So I think this is a good book for me personally, like in the idea of like understanding and healing, but I think it's just good globally for understanding like how movements exist in a culture where there are a lot of divisions and there are a lot of reasons people find to dislike each other or be wary of each other. So excited about this one. Hopefully these books don't fall over. The next book I am incredibly excited about. This is a new release this year, and this is also the February book of the month for the Literary League. If you follow them on Instagram, they are a digital and local book group, and I just became the digital host for the Literary League, so that just makes it all the more special to read this book in tandem with them, and that is Detransition Baby by Tori Peters. This book follows 3 women, cis and transgendered women, who are basically looking at the complications of creating a family and motherhood and how their identities interact with those pursuits or desires. So I love this book because it's an own voice. Even though it's fiction, it's an own voices book. It isn't a book written by someone outside the community to reinterpret that culture and that struggle, and I'm very excited to read this book, and I'm excited to read additional own voices books in the future on this topic. So if you have any recommendations, please leave them below. I have a list, but honestly, I am a little afraid to order because when will I ever get them in the mail? So I'll probably find a local bookstore. But until then, Detransition Baby, very excited about it. You'll be hearing about this in my February wrap up. Ooh, don't fall. Okay. The next book is, so I wanted to buy this book to read in the winter last year, but I wanted to wait until I could buy the paperback. So just because the cost of the hardback was a little bit higher than I typically buy for books, and it was really hard to find this book used. So it is The House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I have heard nothing but amazing things about this book. This is happens to be a queer romance book. I don't know if it is supposed to be in the romance genre, but there is also magical realism in here. So magical realism is one of those genres that gets me every time. This is about a caseworker who goes to this home for magical children and it is run by Arthur Parnassus, and he's the master of the orphanage. I mean, come on, this is so good. So it's supposed to be warm and cozy and just precious, and apparently it's a tearjerker. So TJ Klune also has another book coming out with another gorgeous cover this year, so I thought, let me see if me and TJ can get along. And I love his writing, which I'm thinking I probably will, and I should have gotten the hardback, so whatever. But I'm excited to read this. I'm gonna try to read it in the summer. I thought this would totally be a cute summer beach read, but apparently it's more of like a winter cozy read. Don't know if that matters, but I'll probably get to this really soon because I need some coziness in my life. It's very precious. Okay, down to the last 4, y'all, and that'll be done. This is another Caribbean read. I believe it's another Jamaican read. Yeah, this is about a gentleman. Oh, this is A Million Aunties by Alicia Mackenzie, a new author to me, another new author to me. This is about Chris. He travels to Jamaica to find like peace after a large loss in his life, and he discovers a new extended family in the form of a million aunties. And if you are West Indian, or really just, I think, any kind of hot weather culture, for whatever reason, you have a large group of aunties who aren't really your aunts, but exercise an enormous amount of social and familial pressure on your life that's not always helpful. And so I'm excited to read this book as part of my desire to read more Jamaican literature and West Indian literature, but also I so largely resonate with this idea that I'm excited to just read about someone going through the same thing and see what they think about it. This is a work of nonfiction, and you will likely see this in the summer. I mean, look how summery the cover looks. And the last 3 books I can do together. You've probably seen these books around BookTube. This is the second trilogy in the Mistborn world by Brandon Sanderson. It follows 2 characters named Wax and Wayne, which is already pretty funny. So it's the Shadows of Self, the Bands of Mourning, and the Alloy of Law. I believe it goes like this. This is the order 1, 2, 3. So sorry about that. But this basically follows the next generation of characters after the end of the last book in the original Mistborn Trilogy, and it talks about their adventures. So the reason that I picked these up is not only are they shorter, so I think they're like quicker, more fast-paced reads, but because I heard that they are hilarious. And I don't know if you know this, but finding humorous adult high fantasy is not common, at least not for me. It isn't. I don't know where you go to find those types of books, and so I'm excited to have a quick read series that is funny. I think we need more humor in this world right now, so I'm excited to get to these books. So those are all my books from my book haul. You will see them scattered throughout the year, very likely, depending on my mood, because I am a mood reader. No matter how I try to change that, it typically does not change. And so if you're interested in reviews, just keep on watching throughout the year, and you will likely see these books reviewed at one time or another. And again, if you really enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so you can be notified when I post new videos, and give me a like on this video if you want to see more haul videos in the future. If any of these books look interesting to you, you've already read them, or you have a suggestion based on one of the books I picked up, please leave it in the comments below so that I can indulge and connect with you there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day and that watching brightened it up a little bit. So I will see you soon in the next video.